So I had this idea involving sort of like a treasure hunt type thing. Man discovers some kind of map or something, and the floorboards are like loose or whatever. So you could be like fixing the floorboard and then discover like some treasure map or some kind of map that leads you to somewhere else on the property, and then you find something there. But then I thought that's not very emotionally interesting. So I was thinking, what if it's like an older man whose wife dies, and then he finds like a treasure map that she left for him, and then he goes and like has to find the thing, but then I don't know, something. But I thought like a treasure map kind of thing could be pretty cool.
Hi, I'm Jaco.
And I'm Mark.
And welcome back to the channel. So this has been a pretty big week for us. Number one, this is our 100th video. This one that you're watching right now, 100 videos. If you want to watch the rest, go, there's a lot of them. And also, did you know that we just passed 200 subscribers this week? What? That's awesome. If you want to help us get to 1,000, there's a big red button. It says subscribe. You can go ahead and click on it. It'll be cool if you do, but you actually did that? Oh, thanks. Wow. That's so cool. Appreciate that. So anyways, welcome back to On The Page, which is the show where we break down the scripts from our recent short films. Today we will be looking at our latest short, Skat. So if you haven't seen it yet, go click on this link right over here. Go watch that first. We will be waiting right here for you. Don't worry. Just open a new tab. Go click on the thing. We'll see you soon. Okay. Oh, cool. Now that you're back, let's get into it.
So we thought that an interesting topic for a writing video might be writing within restrictions. Seeing as we're all under pretty tight restrictions right now due to the pandemic, we want to look at how restrictions might inspire creativity instead of hinder it. And not to brag, but we got 4th place in the Digital Shortfilm Competition held by KykNet, which was a competition posed to filmmakers to make a short film under the restrictions of lockdown here in South Africa.
We tend to think of movies as these huge blockbusters, and maybe that's because those are the ones that have like the most intense marketing, but that's not a short film necessarily. A short film is a slice of life. It's a moment in time. As you heard in the intro, we sort of came up with this idea of a treasure hunt film, which we then used as our framework. It's perhaps good to create a framework for yourself through which all your subsequent ideas can be filtered through.
Creating more restrictions may seem counterintuitive, but stick with this here. Creating more restrictions for yourself will enable you to avoid staring at a blank page. And this perhaps leads into the number one rule of creating a short project. Give yourself a time limit. Be it how long you shoot for, when the film will be done, or perhaps a maximum length of the film. Just because you have the time, maybe you're shooting at home, this will also mean that you have the potential to procrastinate. But anyway, enough about that. Back to the writing.
So how do you start? Where do you even start? As we said earlier, it's good to have that initial framework. Think to yourself, what do you have access to? Who can be in it? What props do you have? What locations do you have access to? What equipment do you have? But filter it through that aforementioned framework. For example, think to yourself, what is different about this prop or location that would be beneficial to such a framework? Skat is a treasure hunt, and a treasure hunt needs clues.
In een van 2 huise, een vir jou en een vir my. Die een waarna ek jou sal lei, het jy altyd gespot. Dis vernoem na my. Hierna sal jy sê dat dit jou nader gebring het aan
Here we are on the page. So what's a good clue? Knowing that, we also had access to all of these 8mm films that he's going to get at the end of the treasure hunt. So a clue needs to be something physical, right? And we were thinking, what can we use to set up and maybe foreshadow these 8mm films that he's going to find at the end of the film? And we thought, aha, photographs. These photographs he can physically interact with, and we can perhaps put a clue, a riddle, or a map on the underside of them.
Next, we have location. We knew that we were restrained to my house and my garden, so we literally just walked around in my backyard on a WhatsApp video call and just looked for places that we could ingrain with meaning. So as we can see here, Joshua leaves the house, walking towards us. We do not know where he's headed. He stops, holds up the photograph, and then the photograph covers the frame. We see it in its entirety. The happy couple, names below again. Lowering the photo, we see 2 Wendy houses lay in front of him, next to the other, like the couple in the photo. So what's great about shooting in spaces that you know is that you can cheat the geography of your house. The audience watching the film is not going to know what's in front of them or what's behind them. So in your writing, you should really take advantage of that to link unique places to each other. For example, the house that we showed where my brother walks out and then looks at the Wendy houses, that's actually in a completely different location in my yard. But because the screen direction is the same, the audience can fill in the blanks and just link those places to each other. Really think to yourself, what kind of journey can your character go on that would be visually interesting?
So speaking to the same part that Jaco was speaking about, we found 2 Wendy houses next to one another in Jaco's garden, and we thought, hey, you know those clues that we had from earlier? What if the position of the house, of each Wendy house, represents the person in the photograph? This could be visually interesting, and it could tie to the initial written clue on the back of the photograph. Work your ideas backwards and throughout your script to create a narrative that feels intentional and cohesive.
In een van 2 huise, een vir jou en een vir my. Die een waarna ek jou sal lei, het jy altyd gespot. Dis vernoem na my. Hierna sal jy sê dat dit jou nader gebring het aan.
Lev Kuleshov was this Russian pioneering editing theorist who came up with the idea that the creation of meaning can be placed on the part of the audience. We fill in the meaning between the cuts through the association of 2 sequential images, thereby creating the context as understood by the viewer, or as Kuleshov himself put it. And so I found that if you were to join one shot with another, or one shot with 2 others, then the result is not only what is recorded on each image, but something new, that which none of these shots possess, that which does not exist. The audience imbues the associated meaning, but this obviously does not in any way downplay the importance of a good actor.
What this means is that using the Kuleshov effect totally solves the problem that you may not have access to the most seasoned of actors to be in your short film. That's okay. If you know this, use it to your advantage. Create that restriction. For us it was no dialogue, but know that you have the Kuleshov effect in your back pocket. So for example, here we have Joshua finds this odd. He turns the photo over. On it, it reads, and we cut between him reading it and the riddle itself, and then he's even more puzzled. He turns the photo back once more. He seems to have an inkling, gets up and walks out. Keep in mind that the people you may have involved may not even really like acting, so don't really write something where they have to dramatically shed a single tear down their left cheek. Write with this in mind. This also concerns maybe the level or intensity of the conflict in your script. If it's one man, as in Skat, the conflict is man versus his environment. And as we've discussed, it's all filtered through this treasure hunt framework. And as it turns out anyway, Henry did a great job in his debut role.
And remember, things can change. Be loose with it. Write your script so that you know what you need to capture, but then feel free to adapt if better ideas come along, or if maybe your original idea just won't work. For example, we wrote here that he stops at the base of the tree. This has to be the one, right? But then when he has the shovel, right, he plunges it into the ground, breaking it apart. He digs, shoveling dirt to the side, and digs further, a bit more before he stops. He's found it. We see that it's a suitcase. Okay? He sits down below his hole. None of this happened in my Skat, and that is because the soil in my garden is actually clay soil. So it's extremely difficult to shovel into it easily, and also to get to the depth that we would need. Another thing that changed is the suitcase. We changed it from a suitcase to this really cool metal chest that my grandparents actually used to use to put documents like their birth certificates and so on in. And then I found this tree that had like a hollowing inside, put the chest in there, and then cover it up with some old branches and sticks that we had lying around. So feel free to change your idea on set, but stay true to that core idea and the initial framework.
So to sum up, know your restrictions and create further restrictions and a framework through which all your ideas can be filtered through. Keep it small. If the idea seems like a feature, it's a feature. And maybe save that for later. What do you have available? What is unique about your props and locations? And what meaning can you imbue into these props and locations? And work it backwards. Thread these props and locations throughout your narrative to create cohesion.
So that's it for this episode of On the Page. We hope you learned something. If you did, leave it in the comments or maybe ask us a question. We'll try to respond to all of them. And if you did enjoy it, maybe leave us a like? Yes? No? Maybe? I don't know. Can you repeat the question?
So if you aren't yet, maybe consider subscribing. We just hit 200 subscribers and we'd like to thank you so much for all of your support thus far. We really appreciate it. So we put out new videos every Tuesday and Friday, with a new short film on the first Friday of every month. And so, stay inside and make your movie.